The air in the bedroom was thick with unspoken words, and the scent of freshly cut grass from the bouquet on the table. Emily shifted on the bed, watching her husband Mark pace. He'd been restless all evening, whispering into the phone and running a hand through his hair every few seconds. "It's nothing, Em," he'd said when she asked about the call. "Just work." But his tone had been clipped, his eyes tight with an emotion she didn't want to name. An hour later, when he left for the bathroom, Emily rummed family nightstand. She was looking for the charger for her phone. Their phones were in the living room, charging after their 11-year-old son spilled orange juice on them, and she needed to see if there were any messages from her mother. Inside the drawer, nestled between the neatly stacked sweaters, was a small box. Not a piece of jewelry, perhaps a gift for her, or their anniversary, she thought, pushing it open. But what she found made the breath catch in her throat. In velvet, a diamond glittered accusingly. Emily pulled it out, turning it over in her palm. The diamond was bigger than any she'd ever seen, almost as big as the one Leah from next door had shown her last week, bragging that her husband had bought it for her birthday. But it wasn't her ring. Emily had worn the same simple gold band with small diamonds on either side since their wedding. She slipped the ring on, turning to the mirror. It didn't fit. Of course it didn't fit. It was too big, just like Leah's. Suddenly, Mark walked in. Emily whirled around, knocking the ring out of her hand. It landed in the open drawer, the diamond glinting under the lamp. She held up her empty hand, her voice barely a whisper. "Whose is this?" He froze. His eyes flicked from the ring to her face, his expression unreadable. A long moment passed. All she could hear was the pounding of her own heart. Finally, he spoke, his voice tight. "It's my mother's." But Emily knew his mother had died years ago, and she never wore diamonds. Her stomach lurched. She felt sick. "Don't lie to me, Mark." He sat down heavily on the bed, burying his face in his hands. After a while, he whispered, "I was going to leave you. I bought it for her, but then I couldn't do it." She wanted to scream, to shake him, to demand answers, but all she could do was stare at him, at the man who had been her rock, her best friend, the father of her child, the man who had whispered sweet nothings into her ear and promised forever, only to betray her in the most painful way imaginable. She stood up, her legs shaky. Why would you do this?" He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed, filled with pain. "I'm sorry, Em. I never loved you. I just didn't know how to tell you." Emily felt as though she'd been punched in the gut. The air knocked out of her lungs, her vision blurred. Everything she'd ever known, everything she'd believed in, the foundation of her world, it was all crumbling to dust. But, amidst the pain and the shock, something else stirred within her, a strength she hadn't known she possessed. She picked up the ring from the drawer, its cold metal a stark contrast to the burning anger that flared within her. Mark watched her, his expression a mixture of anguish and fear. "Emily, please, let me explain." But she cut him off, her voice shaking with controlled fury. "Don't you dare speak to me again. You have nothing to explain." She walked past him, ignoring his outstretched hand and the desperate plea in his eyes. She didn't need answers. He had given her more than enough of those over the past 11 years. She didn't need his love. She had a son who loved her more than words could say. She didn't need his forgiveness. She already forgave him. For what? For being weak, for being a coward, for choosing to live a life of lies. As she stepped out of the bedroom, the cool night air hitting her skin, Emily knew one thing. She was done waiting for her happily ever after. She would make it herself. Because sometimes letting go is the only way to truly start over.